Yeah, I'm publishing the Facebook. There we go. Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. Welcome to the Front Row Movie Reviews, the podcast for people who actually like movies and TV, unless you watch my Justice League reaction trailer, which means I hate movies for some reason, but at least that one. We are here for another TV review of Discovering Star Trek, looking at Star Trek Discovery Episode 4, The Butcher's Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cry, which at least is probably the most badass Star Trek episode name we've ever had, so I appreciate that. My name's Scott, and with me is...
Mike.
And
Blake.
And
then...
Blake.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. You're supposed to say your name, Blake.
I was. I said Blake like 3 times.
Oh, I didn't hear you. That's odd. Well, good technology. Okay. So, we are here to talk about the Butcher's Knife, whatever the heck it's called. We're going to go ahead and skip the synopsis part because I'm assuming if you're listening to this, you've already watched the episode. And if you're not, you're going to get the hell spoiled with. So we are going to jump right into it. First things first, let's talk about first impressions of the episode. And we'll go to Mike.
It was busy. There is a lot going on in this episode. Not all of it great. Man, like I literally watched it not 5 minutes ago, so I'm still processing. But I have a feeling Peter's really gonna like Star Trek. So I don't know. Anyone else?
Blake, what do you got? This is wonderful podcast material. Great.
This is. I would agree. The episode was really busy and kind of had a lot going on in there. It had some interesting moments. I'm not quite sure what to think of some of it.
Okay. Yeah. Great. I'm glad
we've got a lot to say here with this.
I noticed that. Well, I've got a little bit more to say. Thank goodness. I think this was the most Star Trek-y of the Star Trek Discovery episodes so far.
What?
Hear me out. Because up until this point, we've been dealing with Klingon War, and there hasn't been much discussion of, what Star Trek is about in terms of figuring, learning more about what's going on in the universe and all that good stuff. Of course, we had a little bit of the discussion of morality in the past few episodes, but I think dealing with this wonderful-looking, disgusting thing that looks like a microscopic organism, but obviously can eat security officers, was an interesting way to look at figuring out what morality means and what I'm rambling here trying to figure out what English is, but the whole idea here is, you can easily look at this alien creature as just something that can be experimented on, but they find out that not only is it cognizant of what's going on, but it seems to be probably more intelligent than the humans because it can hold star charts in its head and knows how to interact with mushrooms. And aside from Cheech and Chung, I don't know anyone else who can interact with mushrooms. So,
well, I don't know if I think it's more intelligent than humans, but it's definitely more intelligent than that security officer that's dead now.
I will say this: the security officer was the thing that was really annoying me about this show, because I can grasp about everything. I'm sure we'll talk about it, all the crew here in a little bit. I can grasp what everyone's doing. She just rubbed me as somebody who was an asshole for no apparent reason. When they got off the shuttle in the last episode, and she's just basically belittling them and saying they're animals and everything else. I'm like, why the hell are you on a starship? And she's not now, so it's okay.
Well, I mean, she's the blunt instrument, the obviously not too bright follower who gets your kicks by bossing people around and playing badass. And well, that didn't work out so good for her, but I agree.
So
she was an annoying character. I don't know if she was, at first I was like, man, is the acting that not good, and I think there's maybe a little of that going on. And then I thought, well, is the writing not good? But honestly, the way she interacted with Burnham about, it's my job to keep you on task. I'm like, no, this is totally a human being that I've met in my life, and so it annoyed me. I didn't like her. I wasn't supposed to, and neither were you. So.
Well, and the writers did say they were going to take a page from Game of Thrones and kill off people you thought were going to be the main cast.
Oh, well, they're sure doing that.
I was just kind of having that thought with the whole Game of Thrones reference, that it would be nice if we could go an episode without somebody dying.
Well, not this episode, sir, because she done died.
I think Burnham missed the mark, and not only does the monster eat mushrooms, I think it also feeds on stupidity.
Well, let's this sounds like this is going to be an interesting episode to discuss. It sounds like our scores are going to be interesting too. So, Blake, what are some of the things you liked about this episode?
So some of the things I liked about it, I mean, I did like it did move the story a little bit more into explaining the whole, drive system that they're using for the ship. I think it also a little bit with what they opened this time goes to what we discussed last time with why have we never heard of this technology in later series that take place after this. And, I think that opens up where we could see where they're going to get into the ethical dilemmas of using it. And they've done that before in Star Trek. The Genesis device, we never heard of that really in later series. And, other things that they've done that way. So I think they're going to open it up that way. So I think they're explaining where this fits in and maybe why we've never heard of it after this. And I still think the one thing they're doing a really strong job of is they're doing a lot of character development, and they're doing it early, as opposed to other Star Trek series where, you've watched it for 7 seasons and still have no idea what purpose Harry Kim serves on the bridge of the ship.
Because he didn't serve one, and that's why he never got promoted.
Exactly.
Dude was an ensign until the day he died. And Mike's like, Voyager? What?
Yeah, I know Voyager.
But no, I think that comes from the serialized nature of this and the fact that we've got 15 episodes and actually 13 when you figure you can just kind of jettison the first 2 episodes from the storyline at this point. You've got 13 episodes to tell a story, which means you're not going to have filler. And I do appreciate that, whether I like the episodes or not. I appreciate the fact that when you have a normal Star Trek show, you had 26 episodes a season for most of it. Mm-hmm. And that's what you got, was about 13 really good ones, 5 or 6 really bad ones, and somewhere in the middle for the rest of them.
Well, I will say it did, Scott, look like they might have found the light switch on the ship this time.
They actually turned on the lights, and she went out of her way to say, turn on lights to full magnification or full illumination or whatever. I was like, they turned it on. It was nice. And the med lab has full lights too, which you would hope.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Now the bridge looks like it's off a battleship, but whatever. Mike, what did you like? This is awesome. Mike found an episode he doesn't like.
Well, and here's the thing: is I can't say that I didn't like the episode. I mean, I'll side in with Blake and say that it did move the story of the series along at a fever pitch at this time. It's like, as you say, throughout the first couple, it's like, okay, last episode they kind of set up the premise, and then this episode, it's like the first time we used the cool new thing and did good with it, and kind of further setting up the dilemma, the long game of the series. But the devil was in the details for this one for me, so I guess we'll talk about that in the next segment, which is what I didn't like. But no, I mean, in terms of what I did like, I think the character development continues to be really strong in this series, which I appreciate, and I do like the pace of it overall. I think it's fun that it's moving nice and quick.
Yeah, and the pacing I have a problem with in this episode, and I'll talk about that in a bit, but a couple of things I did like. As much as Discovery is still a god-awful, ugly ship, they did tell us why they have those stupid-ass little multiple saucer pieces there. So whether you like it or not, at least they explained it.
Did they? Because I'd like to hear your explanation. I paused it and went and did some Googling, and I still
spin.
Don't get it. I know they spin.
And then it turns into a top.
Why do they spin?
Because it looks pretty.
Because this is Contact with Jodie Foster?
The video went dead for 8 hours, so I don't know what you're talking about. Sir.
Yeah, exactly.
I like Contact. It's a good book and movie.
There is some mention of energy cavitation, which means getting rid of energy, creating a void of energy, a negative energy space. I don't get how spinny shit parts do that.
Well, here's the thing, and here's the thing for you. It spins like a little top, and actually, if you watch it, it turns like into like a ribbon.
Yeah, it turns into the Asian from the Matrix.
But what
it doesn't. I paused it there too and watched it, and that's just like blur from how fast it's doing whatever it is that it's doing.
Well, but when it appears, it's completely normal. It doesn't like slow down or stop spinning. It's just like, hey, I'm here. But I'm just saying, I like that they showed us why it's ugly. I didn't say I like it.
Fair enough. I don't think it makes sense, but at least
I still like Saru. I think he's my favorite character in this because he doesn't take shit from anybody at this point. He's like, he comes in, he's like, you asked for my help, and she's like, I just wanted to use your dangly things for a bit. And then
I thought it was kind of funny because, like, in the last episode, he was very, he seemed to be playing a very respectful type of role, and in this episode, he kind of went back to like, well, I didn't think I was going to see you again, so I'm back to being a dick.
But it kind of goes along with the theme that everyone is doing what they feel is right for the situation. Lorca does not think he's evil. Obviously, at this point, he is, and we're all going to figure that out as we go along, I'm guessing. But okay, we'll get into that too. But for Saru, he was thinking that for this situation, he has to point out the truth and the fact that he thinks she's a capable person when she's not trying to blow up stuff and take over ships. And he points out, like as you mentioned, he didn't think he'd have to deal with her ever again. So what was the harm in that?
Well, I mean, and that's almost, it's that good character interaction, right? It's what you would naturally do in a situation like that. You might be with somebody you don't necessarily care for or respect, but if you only have to deal with them for a day or two, then you're going to be nice until they go away.
Yeah, this chick's going to be on a mining colony for the rest of her life. So what's the problem?
Leave her with a good memory. And then once he found out that wasn't the case, then he was like, oh.
Another thing I liked about this episode is I'm starting to actually like the character of Stamets, Anthony Rapp's character, and I actually caught his name this time. Because he didn't give me a soliloquy about how Starfleet's evil, but he's still telling me that Starfleet's evil, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a. I get it. He's the conscientious. I can't talk either.
Conscientious objector
of the series. He's a scientist and an explorer who has been forced into a situation that's not what he wanted or envisioned or whatever. And he's upset about that. At the same time, I kind of like roll my eyes heavily at the fact that he thinks he can talk back to the captain, who's this like, in his mind, devil. I mean, he does, and to some degree, I get it. He's the scientist. What's Lorca really gonna do without him? But I don't know.
But
they laid it on thick, is all I guess I'm saying.
You're right, they did, but I also like the fact that at the end of the day, everyone seems to hate Lorca. Everyone, I mean, Saru said that Michael fits right in being basically cutthroat, not caring about anybody. Stamets says he hates him, but Lorca knows how to pull everyone's strings. Because as soon as Stamets is like, I'm not going to do it, he's like, okay, well, listen to some kids dying, and then we'll see what you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to waver a little bit on my theory about Lorca being an evil character. I never really doubted that he was going to be a character who is doing what he thinks is right, but he may not turn out to be quite the sociopath that I thought he was going to be. Well,
and the one thing I will say about this episode too is it has told us one thing that we were questioning, and that is Lorca rogue? Or does Starfleet know what he's doing? And it's obvious now Starfleet knows what he's doing, and in fact Starfleet's saying you need to move faster because you're the only one who can do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that kind of goes to my thing too, is obviously with the Admiralty,
yes.
Admiralty, thank you. Kind of pushing him along, it's not just him who's cracking the whip and saying you scientists need to work faster and do more science. It's like, no, he's got pressure from above too. So it's not like he's this singular, driven character. It's very much that the leadership wants it all to happen. So,
and I kind of feel like that too. That it's going to set up, I think, for the viewer to kind of choose and see where it's going, as far as the actions these people are doing. A little bit, DS9 episode with Cisco's little rant in his log in the Pale Moonlight.
Yes.
Yeah, it's almost like they took that kind of premise and have done this over a 13-episode story arc for Discovery.
I can live with this.
Doing what needs to be done and seeing how it works out in the end.
Yeah.
And, almost setting up season 2 is now how do they live with what they've done in season 1.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, and that we can talk more about that too when we hit the predictions thing. But before we hit that point, let's talk about things we didn't like. And Mike, I think you have some stuff to talk about. So let's go to Blake first.
I don't know. I kind of wanted to hear what Mike had to say. I would say some of the things I did like is I definitely thought it moved really fast. I almost think this could have been better served story-wise if they would have slowed it down and maybe split this over a couple episodes. I get they've got a limited episode count, but yeah, this thing just felt really fast and rushed from one thing to the next. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, I really didn't like the stupid spinny thing.
I didn't say I liked it. I said at least they're using the ship for something. That's all I said.
They're using it, but in a really stupid way.
I agree. All right, Mike, I guess you're up.
Well, okay. I'm unaware. I got caught with my guard down. Yeah, the spinny thing is just silly. It's the I don't know. I'm not going to harp on that because that's really not my main problem with this episode. But it's just one of those, like, we assume all of our viewers have ADD, and if things aren't like moving and twisting and spinning and exploding, then they lose interest. So I kind of just saw that and rolled my eyes and okay, onward. I did not like the fact that the Discovery, in terms of the pacing, as Blake was just saying, it could have been a 2-episode arc, and I think it would have worked out a lot better because they went simultaneously from making 5 feet jumps to cross galactic jumps, and also weaponized it all in the same episode.
Yeah,
which I kind of missed exactly how that happened, but looked like they teleported some torpedoes into something. I don't even know, but
yeah, they were mines or torpedoes or something. They basically just left some droppings for him to run into.
But, I mean, I get the idea. Lorca is well aware of the idea of we can appear and disappear almost instantly, but I'm like, man, that dude thought 5 steps ahead if he thought they were gonna A, land where they wanted to land, B, get out without dying, and C, also leave a present behind, and lure ships in to die.
Well, but the one, and I'm not going to defend much about the whole spinny thing, but if they're going to try to prove that they're not violating continuity, and there's a reason why no one knew about this, if they only make it Black Ops and they zoom in and zoom out and don't even show the people who they saved who they are, at that point they just look up and say, "Oh, the Klingons blew up. I don't know what happened."
That was a smart detail. The fact that they threw that in, and yeah, they didn't want those miners, colonist people to know, like, oh, hey, this weird-ass looking ship showed up and saved us, and it's clearly Federation.
Well, and that's the other thing, too, I like is, so I guess we're going back to the light piece, but in TOS, they had an episode, which really wasn't even that good of an episode, but it was the Romulans and the Klingons exchanging technology. And part of it was trying to stay ahead of the Federation. So we know that there's only one cloaking ship at this point, and that's the Klingon sarcophagus ship. Yeah. So if I'm a Klingon watching this thing, I'm thinking the humans, the Federation, have cloaking technology, because this thing disappears and disappears. So it could lead to a little bit of an escalation on both sides too.
It didn't really occur to me until this episode, the fact that they've kind of set up this interesting 1v1 scenario where the Discovery is this unique singular ship with a magic ability, and now there's a Klingon single ship with a magical ability, and that's kind of a neat symmetry, so to speak.
And it keeps the war from getting too crazy, because as we all know, in 10 years this war is done.
Yeah.
And again, that's why I don't like prequels, but we know this war's over, and there's a Cold War between the Klingons for the next 40, 50, 60 years. So something's got to happen to stop this war, and obviously I think that's the point of the story, but They can't get too crazy. And as much as the war, they're trying to point out that this war is pretty bad, up until when Michael joins the Discovery, only 8,000 people have died in 6 months on the Federation side. When you think about it, that's not that big of casualty list when you're dealing with a galactic war. So they're trying to keep it kind of, down in terms of the destruction level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shooting war, but it's not necessarily full blown. Although the other thing about this is it is space, and space is big, and that's a concept that's oft lost in these types of series. Where the ships just kind of teleport around and just happen to be where they need to be for the episode. It's the fact that there's a big border and space is really large, and ships don't run into one another all that often. So if you think about 8,000 lives and how many crew members are on a ship, 100, 200, 300.
Yeah, I think they said up to 500 on Discovery, which is probably big. Because
to say it's a lot of ships.
Yeah, the Enterprise.
Ton.
The Enterprise and TOS I think only had like 400 crew members, so they're all pretty small at this point.
We saw 8 of those blow up at least in the one battle we've witnessed.
Yeah, well, and so one of the things I didn't like, since we're talking about the war itself, is I didn't like the Klingon B story at all.
Thank you. I was getting there. That was definitely one of the low points for me. Go on.
I think the whole point what they're going to say is, and Jude, funny word. Hi, Jude. We have people on live chat. Thank you. Says they were saying that only 8,000 died at the binary star, so maybe not the entire war at this point, but just at that battle.
Okay.
But so obviously they're going to try to tie this to, and because the showrunners have said this, you're going to see the Klingon side and you're going to see the Federation side, and if they do their job right, and this I'm kind of somewhat quoting Kurtzman at this point, if they do their job right, you're going to find reasons to believe that each side is doing the right thing and doing the wrong thing. And they're not doing that for me here so far. I get that this Voke guy is the main guy, and now he's going to have the Shinzu to screw with Michael's head a little bit, but I don't care, because all these Klingons, there's no one who's I want to root for. Usually when I see Klingons, especially TNG, Deep Space Nine Klingons, at least there's somebody like Martok who I care about and want to root for. These guys, I don't give a damn.
Yeah, the Klingon story was real weird, and to your point, it's not kind of split in two, hasn't it? Because they've gone the direction of Vogue.
I think it's VOQ, right?
He's
albino Klingon guy
who, from his perspective, they're doing the right thing. Takuvma was supposed to be this character who you could at least understand why he was trying to defend his people, I guess. it was a little bit weak there too, but he's supposed to be the good guy. Core is going to be the Klingon who is purely evil and goes around buying off the honor of other Klingons with fried chicken. So
did I miss something there? Where did the fried chicken come from? Did that come from
Core?
Shinzu?
No, from Core. He said those were provisions from his ship, and they had Klingon KFC.
See, for some reason, I thought Core, or I think his House of Core, and the guy's name is Cole or whatever.
Oh, you could be right.
For some reason, K guy, I thought he was with Voke's ship, and he was starving along with the rest of them trying to do a mutiny. But I guess there was another ship there.
Yeah, no, he was the one who, I'm trying to think here. He was the one who, in the meeting of the houses, or heads of the houses, mouthed off.
And left, yeah, okay.
And then what was interesting to me is, as they have this scene between Voke and his peeps, I forgot what her name was, about how they're adrift and starving to death, yeah, sure. And I know, and there's no other ship in sight but the Shinzu, who has the parts they need to fix themselves. This other Klingon ship, like literally 2 seconds later, just like warped in, and then he beamed over and was like, "Dudes, I've got some waffles and chicken."
I will say though, as much as there was not much in the Klingon episode that I cared about at all, or part of the episode, the one that I did like is when they described that they peeled the flesh off the captain's skull to eat.
It was a little.
So, in case you're wondering if, because they've been filming the season finale, and she's been on set. So
Yeah.
in case you're wondering if she's coming back from the dead, probably not.
Yeah, more flashbacks. But
Yeah.
I thought that was a little, it's the thing of, okay, they went with the shock factor for a Star Trek series, which, okay, but that was a little on the nose, over the top, whatever.
Well, the Klingons' noses are really big now, so it kind of
they
works
sure
out.
are.
Well, and it kind of feels like they're rewriting the Klingons entirely.
They really are.
I mean, because there's getting into a lot more, listening to that interaction between the two on the Shinzo where they're talking, and she's, you'll have to give up everything, and there's all this mysticism. I don't ever recall the Klingons being that much into mysticism. And it was there's Kahless, and then you kill people. That's kind of where it went.
Yeah, and they killed their own gods, the Herc.
Yeah, and now they apparently have some left.
And he's going to the matriarchs. I mean, there have been kind of sects, like when Kahless came back, and it actually turned out it was not Kahless, it was a clone of the other guy. But when he came back, he was with the priests for a long time and all that, and I think Worf went off with him for a while too. But that was like really like weird side stuff. You didn't really have most of that. And they said that he's going to the matriarchs. I mean, Klingons have never been matriarchal, so that's going to be interesting to see.
Outside of the Duras sisters, not much.
Yeah, and the Duras, I've noticed distinctly that the Durases are not here. I mean, even whatever her face is says that her house is the one that's deceptive and conniving. I was like, Duras? But no, it's not.
Mokai or something, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just the one moment where Kol or Kor and Voke are about ready to duke it out. I'm thinking, this is actually Klingon here, where they're basically doing, who's the strongest, who's going to lead. And even that gets kind of poached at the end because he gets sent off to another ship, and that's the end of it. So
yeah, it was all real weird. I think Kurtzman and those guys are claiming that we're just seeing a side of the Klingons that we've never seen before, but it's there. There is like a kind of mysticism side of things, but I'm not buying it. This seems like Blake said, I think they're dipping in the territory where they're just rewriting the Klingons at this point, which is a big no-no in a prequel, sequel, anything. Any kind of series where the Klingons as a race are as identifiable to any person I walk up to on the street and say, hey, what's a Klingon? And they know because it's Star Trek.
Yeah, and again, with the mysticism thing, I think it's Worf who says in either TNG or DS9, we killed our gods. They're gone. And of course it was the Herc, which was an invading race, but they flat out say we have no religion because we killed them. But
I get they had to do something because you look at the original series Klingons, and let's be honest, there's no way they could do that now because that was largely a lot of blackface and a lot of very questionable things done in 1960s Star Trek.
Yeah,
but
and Fu Manchus.
Exactly. So it seems they had to do something, but I think reinventing the entire race was just not the way to go. I think that's one of their major fails so far.
You could change the aesthetic and stuff, but don't change the lore behind it.
Yeah.
Well, and this is, and I was going to complain about this with the ships too, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I think they want to tell a story here, and they decide let's use the Klingons because everyone knows who the Klingons are. But if you're going to tell a story where it's a different kind of group, then make it, the Breen or somebody who doesn't have all this background to where it'll be interesting to learn about a new race.
Well, and the problem with a prequel, especially one that's shoved into the middle of other continuity, is, if it was the Breen or some other race that they've newly invented, you look at TNG and go, well, how come they never talk about that? It's the problem Enterprise had.
Yeah. Well, that's why they should have gone 100 years in the future and told the exact same freaking story, and it would make more sense.
Yes.
There's nothing going on right now that couldn't have been talked about in the 24th or 25th century and not the 23rd.
Different race of aliens. I totally agree.
At that point, even the Klingons. You can say, another moon of theirs blew up like Praxis, and they had to change their civilization. Okay, I can get behind that because it's something new. It's much like, as much as the J.J. Abrams stuff kind of annoys people, in the Prime timeline, Romulus is gone. So the Romulans are probably pissed off. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it doesn't take but a few years into the future, and anything is fair game within reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and one other complaint I have, and this is a general for the show, and since we're kind of talking about the aesthetics things, I was watching Star Trek 2009 yesterday because I was bored. And say what you will about that show, and we've already had our discussions on it, but as much as Abrams changed things, he kept the ships looking the same for the most part. Constitution class ships, other ships that had the same kind of design. And I'm wondering to myself, Kurtzman was, hey, there's Doug. Doug and I had a great conversation today. Now Doug's saying hello on the chat. This should be fun. Hi, Doug. Sorry. So, you know, Kurtzman helped to make that first movie and kind of put everything into it with Orky and J.J. Abrams. So I'm wondering myself, why did he go out of his way to make all these ships look so different again? I mean, I was thinking about this when I was watching this episode in the Klingons. You know, we keep talking about bird of prey. I still haven't seen a bird of prey yet. I've seen like little fighters that look like vultures or whatever the hell they are, but I haven't seen that.
They have kind of a similar shape, I can see, but it's it doesn't look very Klingon. But then again, the Klingon ships in Into Darkness or whatever that one was didn't look very Klingon either.
Oh
so,
no, don't! I wasn't talking about Into Darkness. I'm just going with 2009.
They were fully willing to change the Klingons even in that J.J. Abrams universe.
Yeah. I'm not even going to give him that one. I was trying to defend the first one.
I mean, and I do agree that the Enterprise still looked like the Enterprise, and I think we kind of discussed the fact that Discovery has some keynotes that make sense. I really think they just were looking for some other ways to lure in the long-term skeptical fans, and they struck upon Phase 2. I don't think there was any more thought process that really went into it. I think they said, let's use that.
And as Blake mentioned, it really is the Ralph McQuarrie design.
Yeah. Very similar.
I did notice, though, when they were showing the side schematic on one of the screens, it looked much more Federation when I saw it from the side and that schematic, because you could definitely see like the arch towards the secondary hull and everything else. So I think it's just the way they've been showing the ship just kind of rubs me the wrong way. And as much as the one thing about Enterprise was they always pointed out, especially in the first couple seasons, that the Enterprise was, and this is the NX-01 Enterprise, was nowhere near up to snuff with anything else in the galaxy because it was the first time humans were going on their own. So it got its ass kicked a lot. And we're being told Discovery is a science vessel not meant for war. It's holding its own pretty well right now, and that's going to get old real quick.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it took quite a beating at the end of the episode here before it did its magic jump out murder move. But I did think it was an interesting note. I think it was Stamets mentioned that the Discovery and therefore the Glenn were built around his specifications for his work, which kind of makes sense. Like when the series started, or in episode 3, I kind of got the impression that like Discovery was a science vessel that just got assigned to this role. But now it makes more sense that Starfleet, looked at Stamets and his partner's work and said, they're onto something. We're going to fund this project. We're going to slap this ship together as fast as we can, so maybe we'll forgo all the usual flowy elegance of a Federation ship and make it a big ass triangle. But,
with 2 saucer sections for fun,
with multiple saucer sections. But you know what I mean? Like, I thought that was kind of an interesting note that it's like this ship was actually not just built for science. It was very purpose-built for this project.
Which is another positive in the fact that they are answering questions. I think one of the questions we had last episode was, are the spores just one of many experiments on the ship? And the answer is no. The ship was built for the spores. Yeah. Everything else is secondary. And I wonder how much Starfleet knows about the secondary operations. But, yeah, the spores that's what they're there for.
But that goes back to, it's already creating problems with itself then, because in the previous, the last episode when they were walking through and they said it could have, 300 ongoing different experiments?
Yeah, something like that.
It was purpose-built for this one experiment. But, oh, by the way, let's throw in all this room to do these other 300 random things while we're at it.
Yeah, I kind of took that now as a, what's the word? Bluster, I guess, for lack of a better term. I don't know that those necessarily mean that there are 300 different scientists doing different things. It's probably more like we can accommodate a lot of different science operations to help us get this job done.
Was it Saru showing off that his ship was better than her ship?
And it could have been.
Yeah. Could be.
I don't know.
I think it was the security chief that's, gone now.
Yeah, there you go. It could have been her too, but yeah. So I think
a moment
it
of
may well
silence
have
for
been
asshole.
like I said, it may well have been a case of just kind of trying to brag a little bit, but
Yeah. Well, and so I mean, all in all, I think they're starting to find their footing, and I'm appreciating that. And they are answering questions. We're not doing the mystery. The other thing I was waiting just to completely rant on this was they were gonna pull the Seven and the oh my god, Tarantino with the never showing you what's in the box. So when she opened up that box, I was like, you're not going to show me what's in here, and I'm going to get really pissed off.
I was all prepared to make the Pulp Fiction joke.
Yes, Pulp Fiction. That's it.
Before this happened, I'm a little disappointed that I have to leave it be. Although I still think it's stupid because that telescope was clearly on the
Yes. I'm like, so they go back. Did her will say, "Please go back to the ship that's still by the Klingon ship and get my telescope"?
I mean, obviously, the flashback where we saw them using the telescope.
No, she used it in the episode because that's how she.
Well, because
when they said
telescope.
She said when the sensors weren't working. Okay.
Maybe this is a different one.
And here's another picky thing for you. She gets to wear a Delta when she's wearing a convict uniform, but now that she has no rank, she doesn't get to wear one. Does that mean she had a rank when she was a convict?
Yes, I caught that also. I'd also like to mention that the Klingons, A, look like the Guyver when they're in their spacesuits.
Yes!
B, I don't like how their spacesuits fold away like this is the Lost in Space movie. That is some mass shifting bullshit if ever I've seen it.
Their entire outfits are just they're looking a little too flamboyant for Klingons.
The most fearsome warrior race in the galaxy. You can hear them coming because their outfits fucking squeak. and you heard it a couple of times when the two Klingons were together on the Shinzu. It's just
they don't care about stealth, man. They're Klingons.
Obviously, that's why the tardigrade ate like 12 of them on their ship.
Have you seen their new bat lifts? Another thing that is going to be erased in 10 years. Yeah. That god awful like chunky bat lift.
I liked how one phaser set to overload could destroy an entire starship, but set to kill it can't even dent a overgrown microbial organism.
Hey man, that thing's got a carapace to beat everything else.
There's some more technology that they're going to have to explain why that never happened.
And by the way, Doug, my libertarian friend, asked, "Did you like the Elon Musk reference?" No, not really, because it was way over the top.
Yeah, that was a bit.
It screamed to me that Elon Musk probably paid CBS a couple $1,000s to put his name in the show.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that whole production cost question. There you go.
Would you guys like a solar panel for it? Come on.
Am I nuts, or was Christian Bale on the Enterprise bridge? There was some dude that they showed him a couple of times in passing that I'm like, holy shit, I just saw Bruce Wayne.
Charlize Theron is on the Orville for the episode, so
yes, I saw that.
Which was still a better episode than this. Not gonna lie.
The rumor is that the rumor is that Patrick Stewart will be playing like Admiral Redenbacher or something on someday. So.
I was talking to Craig, my brother, about this. He's like, so how close are you to switching this over to an Orville podcast as opposed to a Discovery podcast? I'm like, I have my moments. I'm not going to lie. I've been thinking about it.
Man, I'm telling you, I'm still digging this show, but like I'm kind of drawn in on the Orville now. I wish they'd stop trying to be funny and just...
I don't know. When the dude got his leg cut off, I was laughing my ass off.
I guess, man. I don't know. There's a lot of crap in there, but
they put a Mr. Potato Head on the guy. That was pretty good.
I don't know.
Okay, back to Discovery, which doesn't have Mr. Potato Head, but lots of dismemberment.
It does have that.
Oh, Doug says we have peace in our time. No, because you call me a libtard, Doug, so there is no peace. Go F yourself. Okay. I'm waiting for the 7-second delay to see what Doug has to say to that. Go F yourself, Doug. Okay. I love my live chat. I love it. It's great.
Such a professional outfit that you're in here.
We say
I'm
we're a
watching chat,
podcast.
just waiting for this.
Yeah, we say that we're the podcast that loves movies, not people. So it all works out in the end.
That is,
So let's go ahead and start wrapping this discussion of the episode up, and then we'll get into our ranking, our scores, and then our predictions. So, is there anything else in closing you guys want to talk about for the Butcher's Knife and Lambs and whatever the hell the name of the title is?
Squeaky Klingons, sociopath cap. No, I think we're good.
Yeah, I think that about covers it. Really weird Klingons, really questionable ethical characters, and
I thought I did think the CGI on some of the effect shots were I didn't like it. I don't know if I thought the quality was bad or what, but like when I don't like the effect of the ship jumping, it looks weird and not very good. And the opening sequence of the extreme close-up of the replicator doing its thing also confused the crap out of me.
They were trying to be, like make you think you're looking at a planet or something, but at the end it was just like wah wah.
Yeah, that's
I will,
right.
I do think the ship shots looked better this time. And I think some of that is this time if the ship was against something, it actually was part of the story. Last time, I think they went a little overboard on the random nebulas and space dust. And it's like, how much crap can we throw in behind this ship just for fun?
Hey, they got a lot of rendering power, man. They got to use it.
That is true. I will say, when they showed the Klingons attacking the colony.
Sorry, our live chat's gonna get me in trouble. Monkey just said the spores must flow. I don't know what that means, but go ahead.
It's a Dune reference, man.
Yeah, I was about to say that's Dune.
I was just gonna say the shots of the Klingons attacking the colony. I felt like those graphics came straight out of like a circa 1990s Star Wars game or like.
I wouldn't go that
Commander
far,
or something.
Sure.
It was pretty bad.
It was red lights with fake explosions. I mean, it was kind of bad.
It wasn't quite rubber kitten puppets with glowing green eyes in a movie that never happened.
We never saw that movie, sir.
You know what I'm talking about.
We went to Wild Things instead. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right. Not Scrappy. Not Scrappy.
Shaggy. It's Shaggy.
Shaggy goes to space camp.
We're talking about Wing Commander, kids, for those playing
Wing
the home
Commander
game.
was the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. And I've watched The Room like a few times. And Birdemic and so on and so forth.
And now Monkey is pointing out that I don't know Dune references because I've never read Dune. And the movie was boring.
It is a strike against you.
Yes.
It is a strike against you, but he has a point, the way they traveled and do. How much sci-fi is this thing actually going to rip off?
All of it. I think that's the key. I think they're going to try to mingle as much ideas as possible to make everyone somewhat happy. And Mike, you kind of mentioned it with the ships. I think they're trying to go for the largest denominator they can get at. I mean, if they can make the most amount of people happy, then that's what they're going to go for.
And to some degree, I get it, and I accept it. I think to some degree, I have to be willing to say, this isn't going to look like what I remember. This isn't going to look how I think it should. This is going to be something that it has to have mass appeal, or it's going to fail, like guaranteed. Now, I hope they can walk a finer line, and I think they've done an okay job of that so far. I was going to mention this is the first episode where I think this is the first episode where I've thought this, but like the last episode was very heavy on feeling like other movies, right? We mentioned like Event Horizon, and it had a little section in the middle that felt like an alien movie.
Yeah.
This didn't really have that, I didn't think, which was like good aside from Klingons looking like Ivers. I thought this was better and did its own thing.
But if Mark Hamill shows up, I'm going to be very happy. So,
hey, we'll get Rainn Wilson. You're halfway there. I don't know how that math works at all. I've just said it because I also mentioned that the preview for the next episode makes me very unexcited for the first time.
I do find it ironic, as much as we're comparing Orville and Discovery, and I'm sure both shows don't want to be doing that. Next week's episode of Orville, they're going on to a Krell ship, and next week's episode of Discovery, they're going on to a Klingon ship. It's kind of, yeah.
I'm not so sure Seth MacFarlane doesn't want us to compare the Orville to Star Trek Discovery.
Well, all the discussions on this are that he went to CBS first and said, "I have a show for you. It's a Star Trek show," and CBS is like, "No," and so he's like, "Okay, I'll make the show anyway, and I'll make it a parody."
Except not really. I'll make it a direct competitor.
Yeah, and now I wonder if CBS is thinking we could have had this show instead.
Maybe we should have added him to the writing team.
This is not the first time they've done that.
Yes, very true.
Well, because Krasinski pitched him a Star Trek series, they turned him down.
And then they used it anyway. Although, I will still defend, because I'm a Deep Space Nine fanboy, Deep Space Nine was in production long before Babylon 5 hit the screens too. I think DS9 was in production for 2 years before it actually went in front of cameras. So it's impossible for that conspiracy theory to actually mesh up. I'm sure after he gave the pitch that somebody probably used some of those ideas, but they were going to do a space station show anyway.
Yeah, that was already there.
Yeah, but I love both shows, and I'm severely thinking about doing one of my every episode review podcast for Babylon 5 because I don't think it gets enough credit. So I may be doing that.
Let me know when you do that.
Yeah, I figured you might be interested.
Yeah, I'd love that show.
Yeah, I've toyed with the idea of going back and rewatching all that.
Well, we may have a reason for
a good excuse to do it. Yeah.
Let's talk when we have the hiatus for this show. But the one thing I would conclude within this, and I kind of opened up with this was for me the most Star Trek-y of the episodes so far, and the real reason is the interaction with the whatever you want to call it, the space microbe or whatever, and the fact that they try to peel back some of the layers to show that there is more to this thing than you usually would understand. And just because it is the right thing to do at the time for the war effort doesn't mean it's the right thing to do, period. And I think that morality question is going to carry on now that we know that the ship moving back and forth is actually hurting the creature, and he's now pissed at Michael. So I think we're going to have more of that conversation, and I appreciate that a little bit. I wish they would go into it a little bit more instead of giving me albino Klingon, but I mean, it's a start. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I guess I didn't necessarily agree with you on this felt the most Star Trek. I get where you're coming from. The whole episode, like the overall episode, didn't feel that classic Star Trek-y in the same way that the average Orville episode feels.
Oh, I think Orville is basically TNG season 8. I mean,
it totally is.
Yeah.
It totally is, and that is like the weirdest thing that I've experienced this year.
Well, wait until Patrick Stewart winds up on the show, which is like next week or the week after. So,
but I do agree that element of exploring this unknown life form is there, and it does feel Trek. I hope that I do hope that it's not going to become like the major focal point of like 13 more episodes of the series.
Yeah.
And I would be hard pressed to think that like this amazing godlike technology just gets scrapped because it hurts a tardigrade. Because noble as the Federation is.
And if you watch it, the clamps really pinch his nipples too, so that could be why he's really upset.
Do this more on your camera. So anyway, this is Mike from the front row signing off.
This is why you watch the video, kids. The audio podcast got nothing on this. Yeah, okay, so let's just move right into our scores on The Butcher's Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cries. Is that right? Yeah, okay. For those of you just joining us, we rank these episodes, we score these episodes 1 to 10, and we base those scores off its comparison to other shows in the franchise. So a 5 score would be an average Star Trek episode, a 10 would be one of the best Star Trek episodes of all time, and a 1 would be Threshold, or Threshold would be it. So, and if you haven't seen Threshold, you deserve to go see it. You owe yourself that. Space lizards. That's all I'm going to say.
Or that one TNG episode from season 1 that no one talks about.
Oh, the ones where they fight African aliens?
Yeah, that one.
I was going to say the pilot? No.
Code of Honor, sir. Code of Honor.
Code of Honor.
Yeah, that one's bad.
Real bad.
Let's just ignore TNG season 1. At least, I will say, I think you've all hit on this. Discovery, say what you will and score it how you will. it is doing better than most Star Trek episodes or seasons do shows do in the first season. I mean, even Deep Space Nine dragged. Voyager was okay starting out and then it fell apart. TNG, we don't even discuss it until basically season 3. So
I hate. I think I've said it in every podcast so far. I hate. I hate doing the ratings because I don't feel like this thing is in the same category. But
yeah, I'm starting to have that problem too because I think I may have scored the pilots a little too high just because they looked good.
I agree.
But we'll have to deal with it now because we'll just have to deal with it until we can travel back in time by, not teleporting, by slingshotting around the sun. So okay, let's do 1 to 10, and Mike, you first.
Yeah, I'm. You're right. I'm going to adjust my ratings right now, and I'm going to say that I'm going to give this like a 6.
So still above average,
which is still perhaps generous, and it's really almost strictly because of the amount that gets packed into the episode and the fact that the pieces in between the major, the valleys among the waveform are filled with some pretty good character stuff.
Blake, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to probably go with a 5 on it. And I agree a lot with what Mike said. I think it's a solid episode, but I think it did too much in too little time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think had they stretched this out over a couple arcs, that this could have been a much higher episode. And the other reason I'm kind of lowering is just the whole Klingon thing is just weird at this point.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. As much as I was defending this episode, I think the A story was what I was really defending, and the B story, I had nothing. Every time we went to the Klingons, I did not care at all. And I was hoping I could fast forward, but thank you, CBS All Access, for not allowing me to fast forward. So I'm going to give it an average rating too. I think I could probably give it a 6 like Mike, but the Klingons, they just really annoy the hell out of me. And I also, as much as we're saying they could have extended this out, I agree with that. But then they needed to extend out the time piece here because, Corvin 4, which is a reference to a TNG planet, so another little Easter egg. But they're saying they're going to be taken out by the Klingons in 5 hours. Okay, how the hell do you figure out exactly how pilots this thing in 5 hours using some kind of dog monster?
They borrowed the Raven from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, or a dragon flying 1,000 miles to a wall in half an episode or something. I mean. That lowers it down a little bit too. So I'm gonna give it an average episode. I think it was good. I think it was a 5, but I'm hoping they really kind of. I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping that they focus more on the Federation side because that's what I care about, or give me some Klingons I care about. Like I said, if they would give me a Martok or somebody like that, I would be all for it. But they haven't given me that yet.
It is a weird thing because I honestly at this point hope right now the way I feel is I hope they don't give us like entirely Klingon centric episodes because I'm not going to like it.
Well, I think you're going to have 1 or 2.
I know, and I'm hoping that they pull their head out before they do it because I'm not digging it so far. And the problem is when they set this show up as they pitched it as you're going to see both sides. Well, I mean at this point we've seen a factor of 95% to 5%. Federation versus Klingons. So I'm like, do it or don't do it at all is kind of where we're headed. And yeah, right now I feel like the Klingon storytelling is really lazy. I don't care about any of them. So they either need to make that ground up on the backside, and I hope they do it better than they have so far. or if they're
going to show all the Klingons, at least take their damn fake teeth out so we can understand what they're saying in Klingon. Because it all sounds like they have lisps.
Yes.
Sorry. Just had a complaint about that.
Fix their clothes.
But the one problem with having a shortened season like this is we know they are wrapping. They actually already have wrapped filming on the season finale. So unlike a show that kind of takes a while to film, no matter what the fans say at this point, they're not going to film anything different. They may be able to edit some stuff differently, but the show is wrapped. What we get is what we get. And we won't see any kind of tweaks to it based on what the fan reaction was until season 2 if season 2 happens.
They could honestly, I was thinking about this when you said it, they could honestly recut this episode and fix that whole timing issue of like emergency, figure out the problem, the scientific problem in 5 minutes. Like they could have started to figure out how the microbe monster navigator thing works, then got the call from Starfleet.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you've got 5 hours to like plug all this crap in.
And that could actually have been a more moral, ethical dilemma too. Is we've
Yeah.
tried this, we know it works, but it hurts the creature. And
all
oh
of the
god,
story
now we have to
elements
do
are
it.
there. They just could have
Yeah.
recut this episode a different way and actually made it much better.
And get rid of the Klingons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let's run into predictions real quick. Anything you guys want to add or change based on what you predicted already this last episode? Like, you got anything new you want to plan for the next 12 episodes or 11 episodes? Or no, 11 episodes.
Yeah, 11 episodes. I think my predictions pretty much hold from last time. I don't really think I see much changing at this point from that. And just kind of say, I think if anything's going to change, I think we're going to get a little bit more into the Klingons. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping as not necessarily a prediction, but a hope is that they're going to do some explaining somewhere and try to tie this new Klingon whatever to the old. I'm not saying they're going to do it well or successfully. I think they have to do it at some point. I'm curious to see how they do it. And I think my other hope/prediction is, the cadet Tilly's getting real dangerously close to the Wesley Crusher annoying scale. And I'm hoping they do something better with that and somehow grow that character from just the annoying side plot to something more.
Or maybe her hair gets stuck in some kind of vacuum generator and she gets sucked out an airlock or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm almost wondering if that's going to happen. If they're going to just kill her off for some like
they're trying to
value.
They're definitely making her the most she's annoying, yes, but she is the most likable character based on just like there's no reason not to like her except for she's annoying. So I mean, it would be a shocker if she got offed. I don't think anyone really care if Stamets got knocked off at this point, but if she got knocked off, I think people would care.
I was going to say, it's not like Stamets has really done anything negative, but at this point, to me, Tilly feels like the most innocent character on the show. She's going to be the one that like kind of grounds everybody a little bit. Stamets hasn't, like I said, he hasn't done anything dubious, but he is responsible for the MacGuffin drive. So
that's another thing. I was gonna, all the captains have like their, engage or whatever. Larkus is go.
Well, he was going to use get her done, but they pointed out that he probably shouldn't do.
Oh man, yeah. True.
The one thing with this though that has come to light over the past week since the show has been hitting all access now and they're kind of getting their numbers is CBS will never tell us what the numbers truly are, but they will say that they have doubled their amount of subscriptions and that CBS is seeing the largest amount of subscriptions they've ever had to all access. Again, that could be 10 people or 1 million people. They're not going to tell you. But the one thing that came out yesterday is the showrunners have said that they are in talks with CBS about season 2. So at this point, there still isn't a season 2 confirmed, which I think is pretty interesting because, again, I think they would have confirmed that one way or the other by now. But they are saying they are in negotiations for it. So I think CBS, for the most part, is happy with what they're seeing in terms of downloads and subscriptions, and the critical reception is still relatively high. It's around 80-85% for the critical stuff. So I think we're probably going to see a season 2, but I'm surprised they haven't announced it yet.
I think it's probably stuck in negotiations with Netflix.
Yeah. Well, and one thing to the Netflix point, I was talking to a couple friends of mine that live overseas, and what they were saying was it's less common overseas for some of the Netflix shows since they do distribute a lot of U.S. shows via CBS and others, that they have more weekly episodes on Netflix than the standard Netflix approach here. So if Netflix is the international distributor, they may be more okay doing that weekly serialized, and they may just be waiting to get their numbers in on it.
Yeah, and And that was part of the conversation we had last week was Netflix split the bill for season 1, basically. So until Netflix says it's a go, then I can see CBS waiting as well, too. But all signs are pointing towards CBS is happy with what they're seeing. They may not be like gangbusters that they were hoping for, but, I mean, really when somebody's paying $4 to $10 a month, it doesn't take as much revenue to make up for the ad revenue lost. So if you can get several 100,000 people to subscribe, that will pay for a show.
Well, and how many of those people that are subscribing are doing the $10 premium no ad version versus, like me, who's only doing the $5 ad version?
Yeah, I did the no ads because I hate commercials with a passion. But another thing, and I think we already talked about this last week too, is it'll be interesting to see what the drop off is when the show goes on a hiatus. Now, the other thing they did say is they did add another episode to the end of this piece before they go into hiatus. So originally we were going to have 8 episodes and then take a break. They have put episode 9 into November, and then we'll take a break.
Well, that's interesting because that implies that the break isn't going to be on a huge climax, or that there are multiple things happening in the middle, or that's really odd that they.
Well, and I'm interested to see what episode 9 looks like. If you're right, if episode 8 was a break and they decided to tack on one more episode to hit sweeps or something, or if there's like a narrative reason for putting 9 up ahead before the break.
Yeah, what does that actually mean for the show? And I was going to say, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I thought a little bit more on this break too, and I've decided it does make sense to do this break because when they're doing it in November, you're going into a holiday season. And when it comes to streaming and the time people have to be there at 5:30 to watch a show, this is either going to be catch-up time for people as they have downtime, or people that aren't necessarily going to have the time to watch it when it comes out on Sunday night.
Yeah.
So, give it a break till you get to the first of the year and then pick it back up when people are sitting at home, thankful they don't have to go to the office Christmas party.
Yeah, that is true. I was just going to say, I guess, I would think that we will hear news about season 2 before the break.
I think you're right.
I kind of predicted that it was going to come later than normal, or that it might come later than we would normally hear it. But I do think they'll try to get that news out there before the break because, frankly, a lot of people may not come back after the break if they know the show isn't coming back.
Yeah, I think Netflix learned that with Sense8 when they released it and then announced it was canceled, and their views on it dropped because no one really cared about finishing it when it's gone.
Yeah, sorry, Penny Dreadful. I'm never going to finish watching you at this point.
From what I hear, it falls apart at the end, so you're not missing much.
From what I saw, it fell apart at the beginning too. So I'm probably alone on that one. But
oh no, you're not.
Okay.
Yeah, I never got into it. I'm glad I didn't. But yeah, no, and I think in CBS, what CBS truly is hoping for with this break is what we already discussed too, and that is they're hoping you don't cancel for those 2 months. They're hoping that you're going to forget and it's just going to bill your credit card. So even though you're not watching anything, you're still getting charged the $5 or $10. That's what they want.
I suppose.
Or how many people subscribe for that 30 days and try to binge the first half at once.
Yeah, and I think that's the numbers they're going to be looking at. And that may go into going against what Mike's saying, and maybe it will happen after the break because they'll see those numbers. But I don't know. The one thing they have said, though, is because this show is a hard show to put together, and we saw that. It took 2 years to get the first season out. They're saying any second season would not be out until 2019. And by the way, I see on our live chat, Doug is saying it won't be canceled. There's too much at stake for CBS. Doug, about 24 hours ago, you were saying this thing was going to be canceled right away. So, nah. I keep picking on Doug.
You should read his comment. You should read his comment above that.
Oh, yes. He wants Michael and Tilly to get it on because that is something that is a great conversation point.
I believe there's other websites Doug should be registering for and paying for rather than CBS if that's what he's looking for.
Well, and the post before that was he really liked the episode of Voyager where 7 and 9 had sex fantasies. So we know where Doug's coming from.
So a Pornhub subscription.
Now he says we keep misquoting him. We do, Doug, because we love you.
Well, and because we're reading exactly what he types, It's so hard to misquote type text.
See you next week, Doug. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. You can find us at thefrontrowmoviereviews.com. You can also email us and Doug, you can email your hate mail at thefrontrowmoviereviews@gmail.com. And you can find us on all your social medias too. If you're listening to this audio podcast, please give us a rating and subscribe through your podcast app of choice. If you're checking us out on YouTube, please give us a like and a subscribe as well too. We're enjoying seeing all your comments and even Doug's, and we're getting some good reception out of this, and we're liking what we're seeing. So hopefully we can get out to more people and we can have a better conversation too. So thanks for everyone who's joined in so far, and let other people know about us, please, 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 please. So that will wrap it up for this week. I have been Scott, as usual, and with me has been
Mike
and Blake.
And I heard him that time. And until next time, live long and prosper. And don't kill any microbes until next time.